Hey everyone, this is MNL2, and today in this video, I would like to provide a hopefully informative video that will help you prepare for the recently reopened Knott's Berry Farm. I was able to visit the park on its first passholder preview date, which was Thursday, May 6th, and I had an overall very positive experience. So I would ultimately like to share some troubles or issues, as well as some positives to look forward to while visiting the park under these interesting guidelines. One final thing, if you find yourself enjoying any of my videos, or find them interesting, informative, or entertaining in any way, then please feel free to like the video below to help out the channel, and to help me to keep providing good content for your enjoyment. Thank you. Let's go ahead and start things off with arrival at the park. So, very first thing to note is that there are actually no temperature screening checks upon entering Knott's Berry Farm anymore. These used to be here during the food festivals, but are no longer here, so that is an extra step that has been eliminated from the park entry process, although it didn't exactly slow things down at all in the first place. So upon entering the park, the first step is actually going through security, and very similarly to Six Flags Magic Mountain, there are touchless bag checks for the most part, which makes security checking really fast. If the metal detector beeps while you walk through, then they will have to do a standard bag check, but if there is no beep, then after walking through, you're all set and good to go. Finally, you will then proceed to the turnstiles where your ticket or pass will be scanned. Until May 21st, only pass holders can actually set reservations and are allowed in the park, as the grand opening to the general public is on May 21st. As for the reservations, the convenient thing about Knott's reservations is that once you set a reservation with a season pass, the reservation is actually added directly to the pass and will also appear on the Knott's Berry Farm app if you have your season pass linked to your app. This makes park entry very fast because when they scan your pass, they will also be scanning your reservation at the same time, reducing the amount of steps required for entry. Overall, between going through security and the turnstiles, it took no longer than like 5 minutes to actually get inside the park, which is amazing. Moving on, I was actually very pleasantly surprised by this. So, as of right now, Knott's Berry Farm will supposedly open at 10 a.m. to everyone, as early entry is not yet available. However, at least on the first day, the gates actually opened at around 9:30, and just about all the rides were ready to go at 9:30. Before the park theoretically opened. My reservation was of course at 10 a.m. because that is the earliest you can get a reservation time, but they actually allowed people to come into the park at around 9:30. I got in the park at about 9:40 because I wasn't at the front of the security line when I arrived at the park, but even then, a full 20 minutes early was enough to get a ride on Ghost Rider and Hang Time before the park technically even opened. Next, I want to talk about social distancing and general COVID guidelines. So, as we've seen with Knott's in the past during food festivals, there are sanitization stations sporadically located throughout the park available for people to wash their hands at any given time. The social distancing stickers located in all of the queues are very bold and easy to see, which is why I believe the guests at Knott's Berry Farm did a fantastic job overall at following the social distancing guidelines. Obviously, there were some people who ignored them, but for the most part, it was followed really well. When it comes to the rides, it seems that there are overall two aspects to consider regarding social distancing. First of all, pretty much every single ride that I rode that day was assigned seating. Second of all, a strong majority of the rides were seating every other row or every few seats depending on the type of ride. With that being said, capacity wasn't amazing, but it wasn't horrible either, because rides were also never sanitized and then aired out by sending empty cycles. So it was slightly better than Magic Mountain in that sense, but not by much. But on the flip side, pretty much every coaster was running its maximum train count. There wasn't a single coaster on one train ops, with the exception of Montezuma's Revenge, because that coaster physically can't run more than one train. I actually never even bothered going to Pony Express, so I'm not sure if that was running two trains either. But as for everything else, they were all running 2 or more trains. That even includes Accelerator, which is really surprising. Next, let's talk about reliability. As I predicted, the rides at Knott's seemed to be overall very reliable. The only real issues we saw were on Accelerator, because at some point between 2 and 3 o'clock, Accelerator did go down for the entire rest of the day, which was a bit disappointing, but to be fair, that is a very complex ride and is already known to not be the most reliable. Apart from that, there weren't any major breakdowns. There were a few rides here and there that went down for just a few minutes, but for the most part, everything was running consistently. There were a few rides that were closed, including the Butterfield Stagecoach, Calico Railroad, La Revolucion, Timberline Twister, and for the first half of the day, the Timber Mountain Log Ride. Next, I want to talk about crowds. Here's where I find even more surprises. Generally, when you show up to pretty much any amusement park right when the park opens for that day, you'll be able to experience the park without any lines at all for the first few hours. So there is no surprise there. But when it comes to later in the day, I was shocked to see pretty short lines for a lot of the rides. Lines were pretty much non-existent until about 2 p.m., with the exception of Knott's Berry Tales, which had a very long line right from the get-go, which is understandable considering that this was the ride's first day of public operation, long, but for the rest of the day, lines weren't actually too terrible. Ghost Rider, Hang Time, and Silver Bullet all had queues of about 30 to 45 minutes at the park's peak crowds, which is a lot less than I expected. I predicted more like an hour to an hour and a half for each of these rides. As I mentioned, Accelerator was down for the rest of the day, starting at about 3 or so it never really saw a super long line. When it comes to food and beverages, this was also an improvement over Magic Mountain, as I pretty much saw almost every major food location open, and plenty of smaller ones open as well. There were some various food carts that were not available, likely due to some understaffing, but for the most part, several food locations were open, and getting food didn't take an extremely long amount of time. There were also plenty of dining areas available, even though a large amount of the picnic tables from the food events were removed. There were still several places to sit down and eat. Finally, I wanted to mention a few other miscellaneous things. First off, for those of you wondering, I believe Fastlane is currently unavailable, as I didn't see anyone using any of the fast lanes for any rides, but I could be mistaken. There is also a new policy for disabled guests. If disabled guests are eligible for a disability boarding pass, then they can use this pass to bypass lines for themselves as well as 4 other members of their party via each ride's alternate access entrance. I don't qualify for this pass, and so I don't exactly know the full details regarding usage of this pass, but the full information can be found at knotts.com/accessibility if you are interested to learn more about this. Another thing, live shows and walk-around characters are somewhat active. I believe indoor shows are not currently active, but outdoor stages, such as the one by the Calico Railroad and the one by Accelerator's entrance, are used for smaller performances. There are also some walk-around characters as well as performers over in the Calico area. And then of course, Ghost Town is also active with entertainers as well. One more thing, cash is also accepted anywhere in the park, so you don't have to worry about going to an ATM beforehand or getting a temporary debit card like at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Anyways, that is pretty much everything I have for you in terms of what you can expect to see or experience while at Knott's Berry Farm during its first few weeks or maybe its first month or two of operation. Overall, I had a fantastic experience while at the park, and I recommend coming out here to Buena Park and checking this place out when you get the chance. I will soon be making a video providing tips and tricks to help make the most out of your day while visiting the park, which will be uploaded on Friday, May 14th. It was really fun to finally be back at Knott's Berry Farm, with rides in operation of course, and I can't wait to come back this weekend. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, then please feel free to leave a like and subscribe with notifications turned on so you'll be alerted whenever I upload a new video. Until then, I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.